we're going to make something else. Now we're going to make a design that's going to go around the outside of this little yo-yo here so that we can actually see it spinning or rotating as part of the animation. So to do that, I'm just going to do something really simple. So first of all, I'm going to select the yo-yo circles shape layer so that, again, this goes into that shape. And I'm just going to take this little rectangle type of thing. And that's pink right now. I don't know that I want a pink color. Maybe I want sort of like a deeper purplish kind of color, maybe like that. Okay, and then let's see what I'll do with this guy. So I have a rectangle at this point. One of the things that I think I'd like to do here is I'd like to make a rounded corner rectangle so that I could, you know, just kind of give it a little bit more pizzazz, I guess. So now it'll kind of look like some weird petal or something. And I'll just move it a little bit. Let me let go of everything else except for this little piece here. Whoops. Hang on just one second. There. All right, so I'm just going to move this up so that it's kind of like on that line off a little bit. All right, good. And what we'll do now is we're going to make a repeater shape. So let's go ahead and do that. And so what the repeater does is it allows me to take that little petal purple shape, and it lets me repeat it and wrap it and do different things. This is a really cool effect. So let's see, how many copies will I make? Let's go with 30 copies of the thing. So you can see that they're all stretching out now in one direction. And now there's a separate repeat, a separate transform just for this repeater shape. Okay, so I know this is going to get a little confusing, so just bear with me for 1 minute. So what we're going to do for the rotate, because I want these things to rotate rather than lie up in a line, I'm going to go 360 by 30 shapes. It's going to give me something like that, but I still don't have it really wrapping in the right way. So I'm going to take my position and zero that out. So now I have kind of like everything going in pretty much in the right direction. The one thing I do want to change is my anchor point so that I offset my anchor point a little bit. This is looking pretty good. The question will be, of course, when I start to rotate, is it wobbly at all, or is it, you know, in pretty good shape? I think it's probably going to be pretty good from what I can see. All right, so now I have, so let me wind this up here so that you can see where everything is. So I have a shape layer. It's called yo-yo circles. Inside of that, here are its contents. Okay. Within its contents, we have rectangle 1, which is this repeater design up here. If I twirl down rectangle 1, you can see that it's comprised or made up of a rectangle path with certain attributes like rounded corners with a certain radius. And it also has, you know, it has a stroke and a fill property, okay? Each of those are defined. And then it has this repeater function on it. You saw me do that. Okay, so everything's under there. This transform, by the way, refers just to this particular rectangle. This transform is not to be confused with the overall transform for the entire yo-yo circle layer. This we actually use to rotate the whole thing, okay? I know that's going to be confusing. So what I'm going to do is just bring that up. So the only thing that we see now for yo-yo circles is we see all of its contents all folded together, which is good. And then we see this one transform. Now over here, a couple of things that I want to point out about the overall layout here of your screen. Over here is where we have all of our project information. The project information over here that we have could be from multiple compositions. you know, whatever content you're using for your compositions, you would see over here in the project window. This, of course, is our timeline down here, and then this is the composition window, the current composition that you're using. So if you ever get confused, like if you ever close these things by accident, you know, like let's say I close that, and you're like, oh my gosh, what happened? You can just go up here and get back to like your you know, your like where you were, your default screen, for example. That's a big help. Now, if you look at the transform, what I'm actually transforming here is this whole shape layer. So I've got about 5 seconds of animation. In the timeline, you see this little thing that's, you know, kind of flows back and forth here, expands and decreases. I have a 30-second worth of animation, and I just want to deal with about 5 seconds of it. And so what we have is we want to, first of all, I'm going to flip this back up just for a second. And by pressing P, I can get just to position, okay, if I wanted to. If I wanted to do R, that would rotate. Scale would scale it up and down. So let's go back to P just for 1 second. I'm going to put a keyframe in P position, and I'm going to position this up at the top. That's where it will start. Now I'm going to come forward in our animation about, oh, say 3 seconds. And I'm going to just bring this down, and this is going to make a second keyframe for us. Do you see how that automatically happened? And then we're going to, let's have it go back up at about 4. So it's going to go up kind of fast, okay? Now let's take a look at our animation and see what we have. Okay, so it's going down and then it goes back up kind of quickly. All right, so it's a slow go down and back up, which is interesting. So what we need to do though is we need to rotate this thing. So I'm going to go to R for rotation, going to go back to the beginning of the timeline. I'm going to select this little clock here that puts a keyframe in that position, at position 1. And now I'm going to go all the way down to 4, about here. And I'm going to set another keyframe in here by simply going all the way to 360 here. That'll give us a full, you know, a full rotation, for example. So let's see what this looks like now. So now I have a rotating thingy-majingy going up and back. Now, one thing that you can do, this is, you know, pretty simple kind of timeline animation. Let's make this a little bit more interesting now. All right, so here we go down. What I'd like to do is I'd like to open everything back up here so I can see all of my various keyframes. So I'd like to bring, let's see, I'd like to bring rotation out a little, and I'd like to bring these positions a little closer. So let's do something more like that. Okay, so yo-yo's going up and back. All right, and then I can move this rotation wherever I want to. Might just leave it down here for a minute. Now, one thing I can do is I can grab all of these keyframes. The way I did that is just by kind of selecting them all like that. I can do a right click, keyframe assistant, and I can easy ease all of these up and down. And so what that's going to do, now let's look at our animation. Okay, and it kind of gives that sense of, you know, timing and spacing just a little bit better. What we're going to do now is we're going to create the string that that this thing is going to be going with. And so to do that, we're going to make sure that we're not clicked on yo-yo circles, because I don't want the string as part of this shape layer, because then I can't kind of deal with it independently, and I need to deal with it independently. So I'm going to take the pen tool, which is super similar, if not almost identical to the same pen tool that you'd see in Illustrator. Going to make sure that the stroke is black, which is fine. No fill. I don't need a fill to be in there. So that's just by no fill. So now I have a shape layer up here, and again, I'm going to rename this so that I know exactly what I have. So I have a line, or I'll call this the string. Okay. Now I'm going to position the string so that, oops, I'm going to get the string, and then I'll position it. I'm going to get the string, and then position the string sort of like in the center here. Now, as it's starting, we're going to use something like we've been doing before. We're going to add to the string some trim paths. So this is just a path. It's nothing more than a path. And so to the trim path, what we're going to do is we're going to say at 0, it's going to be 0. So we're not going to see it at that point, okay? And in fact, we'll actually just take it all the way up so like we don't see it at all. Oopsie. Okay, so we'll be at 0 for that. 0 start, 0 end. Now, by the time we get down here, right where the rest of our animation is, we definitely want to see that thing. And so, so we want to have a start point of 0, and we're going to keyframe these things just like we do everything else. And then we come down to 3, right, with our other animation, and we want to be at like 100%. Okay, so right here, we want to be at 100% right there. And then we want to be like back at 0 over here. Okay, so we want to put the string below Yo-Yo Circle. And now when we play this, you can see that we're going to have to switch the trim paths a little bit here. All right, so I have to go back in and kind of fix the trim paths on here.